Hello and welcome to Impact Africa, our online talk show where we get to have conversations with diverse people and organizations who are impacting lives positively. Yes, this is me, Kemi Akiode Adebayo, aka Mama K. And in today's program, I've got this wonderful, gentle, humble educator. We call him Sir Ade Oyewo. He is an educational services and technology consultant, and he is based in Cape Town, South Africa. My brother, Sir Ade. Can I call you Sir?
Yes, absolutely.
I know your student called you
That's
Sir.
That's the way they refer to me. Yeah, you're right.
How are you today?
I'm fine, and you, ma'am? Thank you.
Very well, thank you. So, tell us about yourself. And I know you're a Nigerian.
Yes.
So, where you come from in Nigeria, and how did you end up in Cape Town?
Interestingly, anyway, to the viewers at home, my name is Adekunle Oyewo. I'm originally from Osun State in Nigeria.
Okay.
From a town called Ikirun,
Right.
next to Oshogbo, if many of you would know. So I grew up in Ibadan, particularly because my parents were working for the government in Ibadan. My mom was a teacher, so I met teaching at home. So that's where,
as we say in Yoruba, banleni. That is it, make it at home. For those who don't understand.
Yeah,
okay.
My dad also was in statistics. He worked for
Right.
the Federal Ministry of Statistics, also in Oyo State.
Okay.
So I grew up in Ibadan, and I'm really an Ibadan boy. I understand every angle in Ibadan.
Wow.
So up until when I completed my secondary school education, and then I went on to first start with a higher national diploma at the Polytechnic of Ibadan.
Okay.
That's where I first started off, and I did a program on computer science, which at that time computer was just coming up, and it was really a passion for many youth in Nigeria. So once I finished my HND, I also went on to do my degree in the University of Ilorin,
Okay.
where I did a Bachelor of Education in Geography, because I'm someone that loves nature as well. So that was it. I then went on to do my National Youth Service, started working in Ibadan. I worked for an IT company in, many people might not know, but it's called Liberty Road in Ibadan, Kiado area.
Okay.
I worked for this company. At that time, the ISPs, which we call Internet Service Provider, was just coming to Nigeria. So I worked for this company, and I had an opportunity to study further abroad. So the first opportunity out of Nigeria was to go to India. I mean, many people don't know that I've actually gone to some worst part of the world, let's say. So I went in for what you call an IT professional training, which I was able to get certified by Microsoft and Cisco. So that was in 2003. Then I returned back to Nigeria because obviously the company sponsored the training. So I had to come back and work for that company. But as vibrant and, as life was given it to me, I had another opportunity to study in the UK. So I went there's a company or an organization sponsored by the UK government called United Kingdom Telecommunication Academy. So they also sponsored me to come in at that time for telecommunication and cabling, structural cabling training. Where we learn about fiber optics, about copper cabling in internet environment. So that's how I ended up in the UK.
Wow. And I didn't know you have all this background.
I ended up in the UK. Then I also furthered my study a little bit in a small town called Dorset in the United Kingdom. It's called Blackburn College. So I went there to do a diploma in telecommunication. So I ended up staying in the UK for 6 years. So when I finished my study, I got a job opportunity. I stayed on in the UK for some time. And how did I end up in South Africa? That was a long story because the company that I worked for in the UK actually had a lot of South Africans as their employees. So I got to know about the culture because at that time you would get a house to live in. So I had, colleagues in the house and they were all talking about South Africa. I'm like, where is South Africa? As I said, you need to come and see this beautiful country and then you will be blown away. So I had an opportunity to visit with them once in 2006. I just came home with them. And I stayed in a place called Mamasbury, just outside of Cape Town. Yeah. And I was blown away with the country. And the fact that it was an African country, it's a developing country, it was really great to integrate. And lo and behold, I ended up living in South Africa because...
Did you go and come back again?
Well, I had to go back because obviously
Okay.
my family had to come with me. So in 2007, I went home officially. I was married.
Right.
So obviously you have to move back with your
the
family. So this is home for us now. I have two kids living locally in South Africa. My wife is also an educator. So we're all in the business of education.
Field. Right.
So that's how I ended up in South Africa.
So
and I think this is home for us now.
Well, I'm sure, and for somebody who has been India, UK, and South Africa, which is near, Nigeria, where you were born in. So how has life been living for you here in South Africa in the last, since you got here? I know you said you were blown away.
Yes. Well, I think the reception I got from the people, or South Africans, so to say, was great. Many people always say in those times, South Africa wasn't a good country, but I always shared with them that I've never had any problem living in South Africa. Integrating into South African education system was quite easy because I have a qualification in education.
Okay.
So when we arrived, we needed to do the necessary registrations with the South African Council of Educators, it's called SACE, to make sure we're registered to teach. And what myself also did was I studied further. So I did.
You really like studying, huh?
I love education.
And you are not. Who are the people that really study in Nigeria now? Is it
Ekiti people.
Ekiti people that we always stereotype that they always study.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you studied.
I studied further. I did my honors program because coming from a Nigerian education, sometimes the South African system always wants you to do maybe another year of honors degree before you can access postgraduate qualification. So I did my honors in Cape CPUT, we call it, Cape Peninsula University of Technology. That was in 2013. And I finished the program in 2014, and then somehow in 2018 again, I started drifting towards furthering my study again to get my master's. So in 2018, I started my master's. I was working full time. So I needed to make sure I have to go to an institution that can allow me to pace my studies. So I did that with UNISA, which is University of South Africa. So in 2021, I completed my master's in education leadership and management. And just the fact that I was studying further has allowed me to also have a good growth at work. I'll mention the School of Hope is where everybody knows me.
Yeah, I was going to go into that now. Tell us about the School of Hope, and you the principal, but now kind of on study leave for your PhD. More studying again. What's your PhD in, by the way?
Well, because I have a very drawn background to IT, I wanted to do something that would integrate education and technology.
Wow.
So my PhD program is on EduTech, which we call EdTech. So it's on education technology. And what I'm really focusing on in this is I reflected back on what impact lockdown had on the education system of South Africa, where learners had to study from home, where learners had to self-study and pace themselves to be able to learn because all schools were closed down because of COVID-19. So I wanted to look at, how can we develop what we call self-learning skills amongst the learners so that even if the teachers are not there, with the right resources and technology in place that they can continue to do the learning. So that was what my focus is at this point in time.
So when did you start at School of Hope, and what's the School of Hope about? What's the aim and objective of the school?
I walked into this beautiful school in 2012. It was a small school at the time when I joined the School of Hope. We only had about 65 learners and we had about 10 educators at that time. So I was also employed as a teacher. But when I walked into the school, I saw a lot of potential because the school in particular, they deal with learners that we call vulnerable children and youth at risk. These are learners that has been deprived in our education system. These are learners that, because of their home situation, the circumstances around them at home, they haven't been able to complete their schooling in mainstream education.
Okay.
So they needed some form of individual attention or specialized education for them to attain matric. So I walked into the school. I was a teacher. I was teaching maths and natural science, you know, the normal subject, I call it. But later on, I was invited to serve on the school management team because perhaps they saw something in me. And in 2016, the school has grown in enrollment from 65 learners to 140.
Wow.
And that was because
more than double.
More than double. That was because there was more need to accommodate learners like that in our education system. So in 2016, I was appointed as a deputy principal.
Right.
Then in 2018, I was appointed as the principal and the project manager of School of Hope. And since that, what I can say is we've turned the school around with my colleagues, with the teamwork. We've been able to turn the school around. So how many team
members do you have
We have
now?
About 11 to 12 people on the teaching staff, and we have about four support staff, we call them. All of these people are very important to make sure the school runs on a daily basis. And we've been thankful that we've been able to turn the school to an academic school now. That is really performing.
Some of the challenges you had? Just pick one, and how did you manage to overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge was motivating the learner to achieve. I think they come from a very deprived background where they don't see the essence in education. They don't understand that education is a route out of poverty. They don't understand that education is something that can really break the cycle of poverty that you see in individual households. So it was to get them, or to have a mindset shift, to understand that the only way out of this poverty, out of 10 people living in one room, is to actually make sure you focus on your education and attain in order for you to find jobs, if you're going to look for job immediately, or to access tertiary education if that's what you plan to do. So that was one of our biggest challenge. Gangsterism was also part of it, because this kid comes from very gang-ridden community. So there's a lot of attraction out of school. Teenage pregnancy was another big thing for us that we needed to overcome. But we were able to do this because we strategized, and we had to put the necessary measures in place. Like the school, we had to employ a full-time social worker that sees to the social needs of this man.
Because you need to get to the bottom of it.
Absolutely. You need to know.
You're just working on
why is this child not cooperating and learning at school? Because maybe the child doesn't have a significant adult at home that sees to their books. Or maybe they don't even have a food on their table, because some of the children are full-blown adults when they return home. That's just the reality of it.
You know what? We'll be right back.
Jerusalema ikayalami ilonoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso.
Wow, Sir Ade, what a journey. Born in Nigeria from Ikirun, Osun State, and lived most of your life in Ibadan. Then studied, in Ibadan as well, Ibadan Poly. Then moved on to Ilorin, University of Ilorin, and then did your youth service, compulsory youth service, and then at some point went to India for training, then the UK to study training, and then, you were told about South Africa and you decided to come and have a look. And you've been in South Africa since 2011. So, and since then, you've done a bit of studying with UNISA and a lot of other stuff. And you then, in 2012, joined the School of Hope in Cape Town, which is a school targeting youth at risk, providing education for them. Worked your way up as a teacher in maths, on to being the principal up till recent, where you've taken a study leave to do your PhD. That is an incredible journey. And the fact that, the people you're working with and what you shared before we went on the break about how you've managed, to turn the school around in over a very short period. You have children who have challenges of gangrene, teenage pregnancy, and a few others. So how does one find out about the school? Do you go out looking for your learners? Because you said you were, how many now? 65 when you started, and now 100 and...
We've even been more. We're now 171.
171, there you go. So, and that means you're growing and you're impacting lives positively. So how do learners know about you, or how does one know? Because there are a lot of, me working in most schools, I see the problem you've mentioned, and a lot of children, not a lot, but a sizable statistics, which we don't want, fall away, along the side, either they get pregnant or whatever, and that's it. No more education for them. So how do you, reach out? How do people at School of Hope find out the learners? Or how do you target your market?
That's actually amazing. To tell you that we don't even do any kind of advertisement or anything.
Okay.
Although the school has a website, which is www.hope.org.za.
Okay. We will share that.
And also, what we rely on majorly is just the word of mouth.
Okay.
The community knows the school very well. So it's just from, I know about this school, you better get in touch with them. So how we really do it is we have a waiting list. So the first step, if you're going to come in the direction of enrollment at the School of Hope, is you need to phone in and place your learner's name on the waiting list. Okay. Unfortunately, the waiting list is long.
I can imagine.
And this is a very sad part of it for me, because sometimes when I interview the learners, because every learner that comes to the School of Hope is interviewed by me, they tell me, we've been waiting for 3 years. We've been waiting for 4 years. And a lot of them find out that I become very emotional when they say that to me. And what I keep in my mind, or at the back of my mind, is how many learners have actually given up, and while they're waiting to get into the school. So this has been also bringing around discussion with the boards of Thembalitsha Foundation that owns the School of Hope to see how can we possibly expand. Currently, the facility which we use cannot take more than 170 learners. So, but unfortunately, that is what we have at the moment. So there's plans to sort of expand the school. And also we are registered with the WCD, which is a Western Cape Education Department. So whenever parents have issues with behaviors, issues with, children and learners at risk like that, they always do refer us to the School of Hope. So we've never waited one day without having learners. In fact, there's more learners wanting to come in than what we can take every year.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wish you luck because, it's a pity that the foundation, which obviously probably depends on funding, generating
grants
funding,
and
grants
things
and
like
so
that,
on. So I hope, they do get, more grants so that they're able to fill that need and that gap. Because, it's much really needed. I see a School of Hope with branches, not just in Mulberry where you are, but observatory.
All across
you could
the
be
country.
Across the country because that is needed, in most countries. So that is good to hear. So let me go back now to you.
Okay.
So what motivates you as a person?
Well, I think I'm someone that loves developing people.
Okay.
There's what we call in Nigeria an adage, if you want to reap and harvest for a year, grow a plant.
Right.
If you want to reap and harvest for a decade, grow a tree. But if you want to reap something forever, develop people, grow people. And I think that's the thing for me. I come from a background that is very challenging myself. Okay. And I can speak to a lot of deprivation while I was growing up personally myself. So I've always said to my mind, whenever or whatever opportunity is in your hand, I have to ensure that I use it to develop people. So that is my motivation. Every day I walk into that school, I'm motivated by the amount of, matriculant that we produce in every year. Amount of newly employed teacher who has no experience, who's now been developed in our system. Children growing into young adults growing into, responsible citizens in our country. So for me, it's always about developing people. That keeps motivating me. And I would always do whatever it takes me to make sure that I develop
That's
someone.
profound. Yeah. So what do you enjoy most about being an educator, especially for your target client, youth at risk?
Yes.
And what do you least enjoy?
Well, I think for me, let me start with what I least enjoy. I hate to be bored. So if you come into my office, my door is always open. All my staff and learners can tell you that he's got an excellent work-in policy. You could knock at my door anytime. I will make time to attend to you. So I hate to sit alone. So even being the principal and the project manager, I was still teaching full-time.
Oh,
class.
Really?
I love to connect with the learners. So I was still a full-on computer teacher. I teach computer application technology now.
Wow.
So that gives me an opportunity on daily basis to interact with the learner, to encourage them, to pray for them, to push them, beyond their comfort zones. And I think that's the thing that really, really gets me going. What I enjoy about the school is that we're changing lives, we're changing destinies, parents or families that would have forever remained in poverty and now being elevated into some meaningful citizens of South Africa. I can give you some of our success story. I had a learner who matriculated in 2012. I always sit with her in the class and say, you know what, you will be an excellent teacher one day. And I encouraged her all the years to make sure she focused on her education. She comes from Mitchell's Plain. She had to sell muffins in the morning to get a taxi fare to school. And she has to bring some muffins to school as well to sell to staff and learners to get the money back home. So I always say to her, you know what, this is just temporarily. If you can focus, this education will definitely change your lives. So she matriculated, she got some few distinctions. We pushed her to apply to Stellenbosch University. She was given a space and she qualified as a primary school teacher.
Awesome.
She's now working for a WCD, a WCD paid position. First salary, I didn't want to say this on here, but I have to.
Please.
Our first salary is better than the salary of the teachers that taught her.
Wow.
So that's amazing how life can be transformed. Now our children will not live in poverty. Our family can be supported.
That poverty
so that is our education.
Just by one person.
So you take it one person at a time, and before you know it, an entire community is transformed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's one of the things for me.
Interesting. So now let me go now, before we go for a break. Let me go now to basically, you're taking a study leave, you've shared what you're going to be doing. So you're now kind of, as we say in Nigeria, side hustle.
Side hustle. You're correct.
Side hustle, whereby educational services and technology consultant. What is that?
Well, for me, when you sit with wealth of knowledge, you cannot keep it to yourself.
Okay.
While I was still very actively leading the school, there's a lot of, what we call community of practice that I am part of. So there is a community of practice for principals in the Metro Central District of Cape Town that we meet, on a regular basis and share common practices amongst what are you doing at your school that is successful? What are you doing in your school that is not working? So we sort of change ideas and then we sort of hold each other's hands. So whilst I will be busy with my PhD, which I know it's going to take a whole deal of my time, I thought it would be nice to have something on the side, not necessarily only paying your bills, because obviously we know
keep you busy
we are, but just to keep you busy, to keep you, what you call, keep you saturated, to keep all those intelligence and knowledge and experience
as well. Still relevant.
I said, I would avail myself, to interact with maybe newly appointed principals, maybe newly appointed deputy principals or school leaders or school management team, to do workshops with them, to do training with them, to advise them on processes and things like that. Even for teacher development is very important for me, to do all sort of things like that. So whilst I complete my PhD. So that will be my side plan.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll be right back. Interesting stuff we're talking about, and life-changing stuff. What motivates you, what you enjoy, what you do. I could go on, but unfortunately time never permits us to go. We're always looking up to part 2 of things like this. But one thing I want you to share with us, over your kind of life journey, from you being a student yourself, even a child, from your life as a child, a student, learner, worker, educator. There must be life lessons, things that you've had over the years. So if you share with us key life lessons that have helped you, or that you will be able to tell a younger Adekunle to say, you know what, blah, blah, blah. Just summarize it. I know we probably could write a book, on that on its own. But just to summarize key, snippets of life lessons that has helped you, or that will help somebody else that, you didn't know. Please.
I think for me, there are certain qualities that has really, or that has bowed on into me over time. The first thing I always tell younger generations is to keep their eyes on the prize. Okay. And when I say the prize means a lot, or has different meanings to different individuals. So for me at that time, it was keeping my eyes on getting the right qualification and getting the right skill set that can take me out of my current situation. So I always say to younger generations, you know what? Keep your eyes on the prize. And what's going to get you from where you are now to the prize is perseverance. Okay? Life is challenging on its own. We know we all come from varied background, and, we've experienced many challenges in life. But if you allow the perseverance in you to journey with you in whatever you face, in the quest to get a particular thing that you aim for, then surely you will get there. It might not be as fast as what you want it to work as. In my life, I've learned the lessons that there is no shortcut to anything. Anything in life, you've got to earn it. You've got to work very hard for it. So that I always tell the younger one. And really build on tenacity. When you're contented with what you have, but you're putting in enough into yourself to be a better person, day in, day out. So that's always my advice for younger ones. And I tell them, and I tell my kids this as well, my own biological children.
Because yes, you can't ignore.
I said, always have a plan B. Okay, and I tell you, my plan A was to be this wonderful tech savvy person, a tech, professional to the core, and I worked so hard for it. But sometimes, depending on where you find yourself across the world, you might need a plan B. So I was very grateful that I had an education background, because if I hadn't had that, I might not have thrived or done very well like I did for myself here in South Africa. So I always say have a plan B. If you have this career in mind, always think about it. What if this career doesn't work? What else can I do? So that has put question on you around skills development, making sure you have what you call the millennium skills that can really get you the right kind of jobs that you need. So that's always one thing I tell them, you know what, never sit with one plan. There must be a plan A and a plan B, because when the plan A doesn't work, you can always knock on the door of your plan B.
That's deep, but I want to touch on something that is just ringing in my ears now. I don't know whether you're the right person to bring it up, but because of what you said, and especially because of where we both come from in Nigeria, where our faith sometimes which is good, but where people then say, oh no, I don't have a plan B, that God is my plan B. Why should I have a plan B? So I don't know, in terms of, I agree with what you're saying, but whereby in Nigeria especially, I don't know whether we're sending the wrong message out there that yes, your faith should keep you grounded, but it doesn't mean you should just sit and wait and expect everything.
Mama K, I think for me, it's a whole misconstrued approach on our path in Nigeria. Because we always say something about God is our plan B. Although God is a hotmost in everything we do, but you have to be very realistic with yourself. Particularly, you need to think about your life in a way that, what if I find myself not in Nigeria, not in anywhere close to where my plan B is God? What would I do? So we need to not allow religion to dictate sometimes. We are deeply rooted.
I like
we are deeply rooted in religion, but still, we have to emerge as someone reasonable. We have to emerge as someone, eloquent enough to understand where religion plays its role. So plan B is very important. I would say to the youth.
Now let me go back to you now in terms of you as an educator. What are the pros and cons of being an educator? And if, like the example you gave us, the young lady learner you gave us, who was your success story then, I don't know whether you had that chat, with her that made her go from being a youth at risk to selling, to sustain herself, to now being an educator herself. So what advice would you give a young person? So there are two parts, the pros and cons of being an educator, and what advice would you give a young person who wants to go into education?
I'll start with the pros and cons. Teaching is a very noble profession. I always say to people, particularly when I run workshop with people, I always say, you know what, it's a calling. Teaching is not just a profession that you can, I've studied, I'm qualified, nothing like that. It's a calling. You've got a heart, that kind of a heart to work with children, to work with younger adults, in order for you to be a successful teacher. And you can read from statistics that quite a number of educators who were not prepared adequately are leaving the profession because they can see clearly it's not just for the holidays. There is more to being an educator than that. Okay, so and the pros of being an educator is you are part of changing lives. You are part of transforming lives. So that in itself really gives you the joy. It's not the best paid job, I always tell people.
That's the con. That's the big
con. It's a very famous work. You will be famous because you find children everywhere you go calling your name. But it's not the best paid job, I would say. That's part of the cons. It can be very stressful. Teachers go through a lot of stress, so you have to be very prepared mentally and physically to be a teacher. I would encourage you to do a lot of activity and exercise to not only for your body, but your soul as well. Whatever you can do to make sure you feed your soul is very
Okay,
important as a teacher.
okay.
Also for a teacher, you are a lifelong learner. That's also another part of it. So you cannot
Yep.
just say, well, this is what the textbook tells me, and that is as far as I would teach you.
Yeah.
Remember,
Especially those who would just chalk only.
Thank you,
and,
talk and chalk, we
talk
call
and
them.
chalk. Okay, there you go.
we are living in the era of technology where any single questions can be posed to Google and you get an instant answer to it. So you need to be ahead of your class. You need to be well prepared for your lessons. So those would be my advice for teachers coming into the industry.
Right.
And you must also understand that you need to be abreast of your subject area. You need to learn more about it. You need to look at the new discourses in your subject area. You need to know what is going on, discussions around your subject area, very important. So that is why I always encourage any newly recruited teacher to join what you call professional learning communities.
Oh,
it's
we have
available.
that?
It's
Okay.
available in every district.
Okay.
It's available for every subject so that you would work hand in hand with your colleagues to be able to know, okay, what's working, what's the new topic, what has been taken out, so that you make sure that you are not disadvantaging your learners. So that's my really advice that I'll give to a new teacher. But it's a very splendid, platform to engage with souls, to change souls, to transform lives, to be a blessing to our nation and our community. So that's always the highway. That's always the pros of being a teacher. The joy of you changing lives goes a long way for us.
Right. Okay, you know what? We'll be right back. Interesting life lessons, interesting tips on being a teacher and the pros and cons, of being a teacher that you shared there. So now let's go a little bit now out, of School of Hope, out of Sir Ade, but still Sir Ade, but now looking at South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Africa as a whole. I don't know what social issues are close to your heart. So not to talk about the issue, but to come up with what kind of solutions, can we have to those issues, whether they're possible or not. So, but I want to hear, what social issues from crime, poverty, teenage pregnancy, elderly, looking after the elderly, it could be anything, that is close to you, that you're, passionate or would love to do if you even have the time, and what solutions can you think of to that?
Well, you've said it all. There's many of those problems. Africa in itself encompasses quite a lot of social issues that not one person can solve it. But what I believe is if we all take one problem at a time and tackle it and walk around that, Africa definitely will become a better place for every one of us. So here in South Africa, the same problem you find that is rife in our communities is similar to what you would also find in other African countries. Where I am in South Africa now, I'm thankful that I'm part of something, and that is about giving what you call holistic education to vulnerable children and youth at risk. So I'm tackling one problem in South Africa. But I would like to sort of dive back into where we come from, our origin in Nigeria. And one of the problems that really is very close to my heart, and I don't know what more we need to do or how to engage, is the issue of kidnapping. That has become something of great worry for me. sometimes I try to take it away from my children, but they see it on the news, and they know, we're Nigerians. What is really going on at home, that you cannot safely travel home and without being in fear of being kidnapped, and all sort of things like that. So I really speak to people in high places of authority to really help us with regards to security in Nigeria. We hear about the girls that were kidnapped from schools in the northern part of Nigeria. We hear about people returning from overseas to come and say hello to family members at home, being kidnapped and at ransom, which the family members cannot afford. People being killed, so we need to speak to security in Nigeria. I think one of the things that I love and I've learned a lot in South Africa is to dialogue with people on the ground. I think we need to learn that lesson in Nigeria, to form some kind of platform or forum where people can engage. The best solution to a problem comes from the community itself. That is what our leaders always fail to see. It comes from the community itself. So you cannot just come and cut the grass from on top without tackling it from the root. We need to go to our grassroots. We need to speak to people, because these bandits and people kidnapping are community members themselves. They are youth that are unemployed, that are not skilled.
That's where I want to go to.
That is causing problem for us.
Yeah, that's where I want to go to, with what you've just said there. I remember when this started, Nigeria, I can't remember the year now, I'm not good with years. And I remember saying to my husband that, from the trend we always have in Nigeria as a country, things like this becomes a norm, and it becomes whereby
acceptable,
and then it becomes a money making
venture.
I think when initially the kidnapping started, it was
let's draw the attention.
Let's draw the attention to the country, and let's, which was what it was then. But lately, it's not just about the bandit, but it's happening in western part of Nigeria, and it's happening in South Africa as well. Last year,
we're beginning to see that.
Children, four brothers
were being kidnapped. They've been kidnapped.
So, and that is sadly what happens as well, where one country, another country in Africa feels, oh, okay, because now it's a money-making thing. It's in terms of unemployment. The root cause, the real problem, of it, where drivers, housemaids, and things like that, they're now conniving, with people to just, do this as a money-making thing. So,
correct.
Like you said, solutions, dialogue. I know, government normally don't want to talk, especially the bandit and so on. However, we need, especially in African countries, we have chief, we have heads, we have local community.
There we go.
Before we
traditional leaders.
Traditional leaders. We were all born into, we're a village.
Cultural
background.
So
we are supposed to raise a child together, and it's becoming so appalling. So yes, I wish and hope the powers that be, dialogue, is important.
Absolutely is important.
Conversations is important. Yes, you might not be able to solve, the problem immediately, but you can start tapping and hearing what are the issues here. So that's a big one.
Yeah, and I think it calls for, urgent youth transformation as well. The lives of our youth needs to be transformed. In Nigeria, you get people, referred to as Yahoo boys, and that doesn't sit well with me. Because our youth are basically idle. The skill sets are not developed. Education is not accessible to them. So we need to go back to our drawing boards and see what are the plans that we have for the youth? I was on Twitter yesterday, and I watched a very remote country in the South Atlantic Ocean, very close to Angola. It's called St. Helena Island. They are overseas territory for the United Kingdom. And yesterday, they brought the entire ministerial committee to sit heads-on with high school learners. And the high school learners, which are the so-called youth of that particular country, engage with ministers on what are the plans for growth? What are the plans for youth transformation? What are the plans for future education on the island?
Yeah.
And these are the kind of things that really shows the youth that they are hopes. There will be a light at the end of a tunnel. Whereas on our side, in African diaspora, or at large, you don't see that. The leaders are so-called leaders. they do things in their own way, and I think we need to start moving away from that. Otherwise, we're calling for a huge revolution.
Oh, me and you, we can talk, huh? And they're talking about, deep stuff, and I really thank you, for all that. I know we've gotten over time, and I think what I'm finding out is having a part 2, with our guests each time. So we want to maybe have a part 2, later on, just to, go deeper into some of what we've spoken about. So I hope you will have us back, or we will come to you wherever you might
welcome
be
at any time.
That time. And but we commend you and say kudos to you for all you're doing in the community and the schools, the education field at large. And we're hoping more as well could be done.
Absolutely.
I've been asking my guests all the time, because I want to have a database of this, and I don't know when I might come calling. So we're always looking for mentors for young people with the people we work with. Are you open to us coming back to you being a mentor?
Mentorship is part of my life. There's no way you're going to do a complete 360 youth transformation without mentorship. The power of mentorship and coaching is very, very important. So I'm very open to it. It's part of my consultancy arm. It's part of my educational services that I can render. So please knock on my door anytime.
You hear it. It's on camera. It's been recorded. So kudos, we salute you, Sir Ade, for all you're doing, and we really pray, that God will continue to give you the strength, the grace, His mercy, the good health, for you to keep impacting lives positively. And your children will be blessed, your wife will be blessed, your generation to come will be blessed.
Thank you so much.
We wish you all the very best. And we know you did sign up to be a volunteer with Bold Moves Africa 4 or 5 years ago, and we haven't been back. Now on camera.
It's time to do it.
We are going to be on your case
soon.
So in closing, this is the final bit now. I want you to speak to youth, or anyone you want to speak to out there, youth in South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Egypt, wherever, because like you said, it's the same thing, more or less, all over where we are. It's just these boundaries that we have, calling us all borders, So I want you to just say a word of encouragement to our young people, out there. Anything else you want to say that you haven't said today, please.
Well, I cannot stop saying this. Education is very important to you, to your lives. I'm speaking to the youth watching me. Education can change lives. Education can break cycle of poverty. So my first port of call for you would be to make sure that you do everything possible to excel in your education. If you need some hand, if you need some help, call up to people that can help you. That we spoke about mentorship, which is available to guide you, even in your career path as well. So I really want to encourage you to grow up in life, to become someone, to achieve would require a lot of tenacity, a lot of perseverance on your side. So I heard you not to look for shortcuts. I heard you not to look for a way around everything. Walk the long walk, and I can tell you, surely, you will get to the right destination. So keep it up, push and do whatever you can do just to make sure that you also impact someone's life in whatever capacity you found yourself. Thank you.
Wow. I was just right in there. Deep, right, teacher? No, that was awesome. Thank you so much, for the time. And we wish you
Yeah, and I also want to thank you, Mama K, for having me and for this beautiful platform to reach out to the world as well. I love both moves. I follow you everywhere. I think you are also impacting lives. Even through your cultural events, I've watched it and it's really, really gained traction. So all the best in 2022 and please call on us whenever you need any support. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. Wow, you've heard it all. I don't even know how to summarize everything, but you have to play back, like I always tell you, to watch from the beginning if you didn't join us right at the start. And you know, this is always available on demand through YouTube and Facebook pages that we have. And you heard it, excel in education, persevere, tenacity is needed. No shortcuts, no shortcuts to life. And wow, there's just been so much that's been shared today. And I really hope our youth, especially those who have maybe unfortunately had a kind of a detour or life hasn't been good to you in whatever way, please, there are ways to come back. You can always restart. You can always regroup, unlearn, relearn, and keep learning, So please, I hope, if anything else, that we've shared today, I hope it has had just one little bit, of you having hope, like the School of Hope is doing, giving hope to the lives of our youth at risk here in Cape Town. And I really wish them well that they can grow more, into doing that. And I hope as well, through, one person hearing this might be able to change the lives of others.
Absolutely.
So till next time, yes, this is Mama K signing off, saying love you all. Remember, God is love. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay positive. Don't do this alone. There are people out there. And you can always reach out to us as well. And we can find people, even if we can't help you. So till next time, God bless.